It's not connecting
I'm still thinking about the Gatorade and the tea, Sherman.
yet. All right. You got to stop doing that before we go live because I'll be laughing and that's just how it starts. But anyway, hey everybody, thank you all so much for joining us here tonight on CAG Chat. We have a jam-packed episode. We are going to be talking about well, we're going to start off with some hot topics today. Levon has a lot to say. I mean, I'm sorry, open mic because Levon has a lot to say. Then we're going to jump into the Cannabis Reinvestment Act. We have brought on Beverly John for the PG Coalition for Police Accountability. We'll be talking about the review board with that. And also later we'll be having Derek speak on the transportation updates that are the county's going through. There's a lot moving pieces that's going on with that, and he's going to fill us in. And lastly, we'll have Tanya who will update us on the school board and, you know, what's on everybody's mind about all that has just transpired. But I'm going to go ahead and put on our disclaimer so that way you will know that we are not this and that. And so you understand CAG Chat provides expert analysis and discussions based on facts and research. However, we are not attorneys and nothing shared should be considered legal advice. For legal matters, please consult a qualified attorney. And I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Levon. Levon, thank you so much for joining us. And I didn't
I,
introduce all the co-hosts. I did, but Donna isn't here with us
she's coming
tonight
shortly,
so
y'all.
far. Okay, perfect. All right, Levon, open us up with open mic.
All right.
Can I say something real quick, y'all?
No.
Yeah, I just hope
Go ahead.
our judges just heard our disclaimer.
All right, Levon, go ahead and take it away.
We may not be this or that, but we are other, okay? For the record. Hi everybody. You know, we are who we are. My European DNA is continuing to do its own thing. So I'm gonna get off camera in a minute and try to go brush it and make it look halfway decent. But anyway, hey everybody. Hot mic. So elections are over. Special election is over. We have a new council member for District 5 in the person of Shayla Adams Stafford. She was sworn in yesterday under interesting fare. That's all I'm gonna say. She has some people paying tributes that kind of interesting.
People like who?
Clink clink.
People like David Murray, former school board
And why should
member
people
who
care about that?
disappeared last year and did not resign his seat, and current school board member
Well, how much
Felton
did he
Moore.
cost us? How much did he cost us with his lies?
Was it 10,000?
Somewhere around there.
Something like that. And
Yep.
then we had her husband, president or executive director or head chief of the Maryland Progressives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the one we. Oh, okay. The one who sent the memo around to stack
Did I
the
say
school
his
board.
name, Henry
Oh, that
Taylor?
one. That one.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So that's what we had yesterday. And let me just say this. Let me say this. Because folk be saying we negative. We're not negative. We just speaking words and information, sharing information and giving truths that other folk ignore. If you deem it negative, that must mean that you find something wrong with it too. But let me just give a shout out to Black love, okay? If you just remove the politics and the shenanigans and all that stuff, I just need to say, because I do know I have known Larry for several years, that it is beautiful to see him, his wife, and his children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay? I'm going to end that story with that. Okay? Now,
I'll give you
tomorrow
that one.
will be the swearing in of the new county executive in the person of Aisha Boy. And that will be held at the University of Maryland's Alumni Center. Different venue from normal. Usually the swearing-ins are at the Equestrian Center
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe the out of county graduations were in conflict with the scheduling or whatever, but God bless the Brave Boy, Miss Brave Boy, and her administration. You all are getting off to a very interesting start. More of that later. All
May
right.
the odds be ever in your favor.
Did we lose Sherman?
No, I
Nope.
heard him.
I didn't hear him. You froze up. Or was
I
that
said,
mine?
may the odds be ever in your favor.
And so last week we had the opportunity, Sherman and I, to attend the District 5 Coffee Club
Yes.
meeting with the Honorable District 9 Council Member Sydney Harrison and Park and Planning representatives. We met Dynamic Director Ms. Hall,
Lakeisha.
and also
From Dade County, go ahead.
yeah,
Oh.
also on the agenda was District 9 School Board member Lolita Walker. I'm sorry, Lolita E. Walker, as she says. It was a good meeting, great gathering hosted by Mix and Mingle, which is a restaurant social space over on Woodyard Road by the Walmart. If you have not been, it's Black owned. The food was pretty good. And the hospitality was great. All the servers, the whole, everybody was good. Like everybody was pleasant. They do a lot of fun stuff from what I understand. They have karaoke.
Yeah, they keep the parking lot packed.
Yeah, so check it out. Mix and Mingle in Clinton, Maryland. If you're looking for a place to grab a meal sometimes.
Or meet me out there one day.
Yeah,
I like,
or meet Sherman. You press
I met a few people on Facebook.
if you want to press through the traffic on Woodyard Road, which was kind of what was happening with the park and planning conversation. They were sharing the master plan for what's called the Health Innovation Campus. And maybe we'll get somebody on at another time. But if you go to the park and planning website, which is www.pgplanning.org/projects /medical innovation, you will find this project, and where they are in it now is they are collecting information, getting feedback from people. They have some plans up on the website to show you the direction that it's going in. They've held a few community meetings, so I'm just getting caught up with a lot of things, but it is taking place where the Southern Maryland Hospital is located. So there's going to be mixed use development, housing, businesses, all kinds of goodies. So please go to the Maryland Park and Planning website to see that, and we'll put it in the Facebook chat later, that website link. And last but not least, there's breaking news in Prince George's County that I'm going to just go ahead and add to the open mic, hot mic. And that is that County Executive-elect Aisha Braveboy announced today that she will be replacing or she is naming a new chief, and former Prince George's Police Department Major George Nader. And so he will be coming in as
I'm sorry. I was looking for the breaking news.
He's coming in
news sound
as the new chief.
You are on point.
So Chief Aziz is out. He has not confirmed his placement with the Arizona Police Department. Was it Phoenix Police Department?
Phoenix.
And yes, nobody wants any grass to grow with him. So just go on and boot kick him out. And God bless you, Chief Aziz. We thank you for your service over these past years. You made a good effort. That's all I got to say for the open mic. Anybody want to comment?
You didn't tell about the state's attorney appointment.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. We also have the announcement of our interim or acting or temporary state's attorney in the person of Tara Jackson, who will be moving from the seat of acting county executive or interim county executive and going back over to the courthouse where she worked under then State's Attorney Angela also Brooks. We got a lot of musical chairs in this county. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't really have any squabble about Tara.
Exactly.
I think Tara showed up for the assignment. She carried herself well. I don't hear any scuttlebutt.
She did a lot better than the previous administration.
She sure did. She was transparent.
Right.
She was cordial. She was respectful.
Stuff when it didn't make any sense.
Yes.
But you know, a lot of people do have a problem with that, Levon. And well, I do understand. Well, the fact that the whole musical chairs, and that was a heated topic on social media. And again, everybody from Facebook, thank you all so much for watching. Those of you on YouTube, thank you all so much for watching us. We appreciate you for joining us. But you know, looking at the comments, people were like, you know, it's musical chairs. I get it. I understand because, you know, she just stepped out of a role. You know, as you said, she already worked in the state's attorney's office. She just finished managing, you know, all of the departments under the executive branch. And then in turn, she was the acting county executive. So why not put her there? But then also there's a point to be made of, okay, well, still give a lady a little rest. But she may need that coin. So you never know.
Yeah, I think that she is a different energy than what we have seen in recent years with folk in elected positions. And so I'm willing to watch and to see what she does in this acting position. I also want to acknowledge that Juanica Fisher, council member Juanica Fisher of District 2, put out a big announcement that she was no longer seeking the special appointment, only for me to have been told, well, that's because they made a decision. So I gave her kudos. I still keep the kudos in that she did not have to make a statement and she didn't have to do it as thoroughly as she did. I appreciated the history of appointments in recent years that she did share. And she said, you know, basically we don't need another appointment process or special election process. And so she is pursuing the seat in 2026. So all the best to you, Ms. Fisher, as you pursue another seat. For whatever reason, it would be nice for you to just be the incumbent for the next term if the voters wanted you back. But as I said, I don't see why anybody would be voting for incumbents in 2026. I don't mean to hate on y'all, but maybe it'll put some fire under some of you, because the way y'all are turning blind eyes and deaf ears and thumbing your noses at the people, it's not cool. So you remember when you were kids and your class got in trouble because the teacher left the room and some of the students decided to run around and act crazy, and then the teacher came back in and she punished everybody? I feel like we're in that mode right now. Everybody needs to be punished. Okay.
Yeah. I just want to say really quick too, though. I want to express my appreciations to acting county executive Tara Jackson. I think she did it, like we said, an exemplary job. I liked her being she was forthcoming. She was intentional about making sure the citizens were updated with, you know, with information. And it seems like she understood you can't spend what you don't have. So we probably would be in a different boat if that had happened before. But you know, all the best to her. Like Levon said, I'm looking to see what happens at the state's attorney's office, and hopefully we'll see some cleaning up once she gets over there, and see some better things happening in the county, in the area of white collar crime.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put together a briefing for Ms. Jackson. Catch her up on some stuff that might have slipped through the cracks in the transition.
You know what? If she comes in and she does like she did in the county executive spot, where, you know, she saw a lot of the tomfoolery. She didn't come out and embarrass anybody. She just got in, put her, put her nose down to the grind and got things done. So let's see if she does the same here.
Yeah. Grace. All right. Next.
Are we still in open mic?
Yes.
Oh, you got something? Sure.
I have something to say.
Okay.
Y'all, you know how y'all tease Derek, but I'm gonna say this is prophetic message to the parents of Prince George's County, the community, as it pertains to the school system. I have never, in my 56 years and being a former student, athlete, and employee of Prince George's County Public Schools, ever seen our school system in such a disarray. And I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. I'm not saying this to be negative, as they have coined our podcast at times, but I'm saying this to send out a dire, to light a fire under somebody to understand we're in transition into an interim superintendent of schools, and things that are supposed to be happening leading into the summer to start the new school year. And I'm not employed there at the time, but I do get phone calls, have not happened or have not happened in the manner that they have happened in history for the system to run well. So I behoove parents to start making your calls early, enrolling your students into school early, getting your addresses of where you live or where your child should be picked up and transported from early, because it is a lot of disarray going on. And I am prophetically saying that this will be probably one of the worst school openings for 25, 26?
2025, 26, yeah.
Coming up.
Well, you said that the last time,
yes,
and about the bus, and then that article came out and just confirmed everything you said. So I'm gonna go ahead
I ain't say nothing about transportation and none of that statement. But since you said it, that's going to have.
But now it sounds like you're saying it's everything, everything
now. But it's going to be really centered around a lot of these parents being upset because their children are not going to get to school again for the third year straight on time. It's going to be total chaos. There's been jostling of bus routing contracts, and like you said, Miss Tara Jackson, she was very transparent to a community that was ailing. We have an ailing school system. I don't care how well y'all try to paint the picture that it's doing okay, we're okay, we got this percent of people graduate. All that is great to see it on paper, but in the actual systemic works of that school system, somebody should be speaking to the public now about what is happening and what is going to happen, because it's not looking good. Do not spring that upon the community come August when all this chaos hits and parents have to, now who work in the federal government, are not at home to work from home and get their kids to school or to help their kids. Things are back to what it was prior to the pandemic in terms of parents having to go to work who work in the federal government and needing their child and needing to know, when I leave out this door, my child is going to be okay getting to school. So that is just my 2 cents. I'm saying it out of love for the community. I'm not saying it out of hate. Somebody better start listening and somebody better start doing some work down there. Nope, not saying you're not, but you ain't doing the right work.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, because what transpired this week, that ain't the right work. So, and we'll leave it at that for now. For now, put period, a comma for now.
All right. Well, Donna has joined us. Thank you so much for joining us, Donna. Everybody, welcome Donna on.
Donna.
And
Donna.
I mean, y'all, I meant the public, but never mind. You didn't did it on TV.
Y'all must have said we were gonna have some crabs on the podcast.
All right, for the next we want to go ahead and jump in and bring our guest on, Beverly John. She is with PG Coalition for Police Accountability, and she wants to talk with us about a very important issue that a lot of us have not um, uh, been made aware of or have been following, and it's the Cannabis Reinvestment Act here in the state of Maryland and how that impacts us here in Prince George's County. Beverly, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. And I have to say, you guys had open mic, hot mic, and you need to have it also say hot tea because y'all was spilling some things. And I think everybody needs to understand how important your conversations are because you're getting some insight into some things that I think we all really need to pay attention to. Thank you again for giving me a little bit of time here to kind of share with you all something as Sherman said, you may or may not be aware of. It's called the Cannabis Reform Act of 2023. The General Assembly passed that in 2023. And basically what it was designed to do was to be able to give back some I'm going to use the I'm going to use the R word that a lot of people don't like, the reparations for damages that were done to our state and our county, our residents through the course of the war on drugs, where a lot of folks in our communities were charged, incarcerated for cannabis charges. And so the state did some research, some reports, some surveys, and each county at this point is supposed to be able to create a board that is supposed to handle and manage the funds that will be distributed from the state for these reinvestment and repair to our communities. Where does the money come from? The money comes from a percentage of the sales tax for cannabis sales within the state. Who really gets the money and how much, how is it distributed? It is actually distributed by, they did a calculation to determine which counties in the state were most highly impacted or directly and negatively impacted by the citizens being incarcerated or charged for weed and cannabis. And to probably no one's surprise, Baltimore and Prince George's County were number 1 and number 2 in terms of the counties that should be slated to get this kind of reinvestment back into our communities. So an office called the Office of Social Equity, they did a report based on a survey that was supposed to have been done in 2022. And it was a survey of supposedly all of the counties. And I'm not sure who actually did participate in the survey, and if any of you all have heard of the survey, please let me know. But it's on the website of this agency, the Office of Social Equity. And they did a report that was supposed to identify what we as the citizens would want to be able to have this money be used for within our communities. Mental health, job development, different things that each community said they wanted. So I would suggest and ask people to look at that for just some history and background on, where some of the ideas for use of the money comes from. The Maryland
And
Cannabis.
Beverly,
Yes.
and I do have a question that was presented in the chat. Our one of our viewers wanted to know who was on the commission, and are there any updates that's going on with that process? Has there been anything going on in Prince George's County pertaining to it?
So that's exactly where I'm going with this, because in the course of 22, it was passed in 23, there was no activity from Prince George's County in terms of doing what they needed to do in terms of setting up a board to be able to, again, handle, manage the distribution of the money that our county was to receive. In contrast, Baltimore set everything up the way they needed to, and they were actually given their first draw of the money that they were, the percentage of the money that they were going to be given for 24 23, I'm sorry. At the end, December 31, 2023, they actually received $10.7 million. And that is being used by community organizations to do, the work for the community within Baltimore.
Knowing this county's sordid history with grants, seeking and applying for grants and also administering them, it kind of frightens me a little bit, especially knowing, the amount of money that we're going to get. So hopefully there will be some form of oversight and those funds will be used directly for the impacted persons. Now, is there an estimate on how much our county is looking to receive?
I have no idea. I have not seen any number for our county to look forward to getting at some point. But here, I guess, is our biggest issue, and there are a lot of questions around it. So one is there was a county bill that was drafted, CB 88 in 23, that actually laid out the framework for the board. It was basically legislation that was very, very similar to the Police Accountability Board legislation, where it laid out 13 members of the board should be appointed. 9 of them would be chosen or selected by the county council, and then 4 would be selected or appointed by the county exec's office. Subsequent legislation actually added 2 additional appointees for the county council, so that both of the at-large members could actually appoint someone as well. But that's where it ends. There has been no further action on what I can see, what I've been able to find researching all of the different meetings and legislation for 24. And even this year, there's been no appointments, or if there has been, there was one piece where somebody, I think from the county executive's office, appointed someone, but then they canceled that appointment or took it back because of I don't even know what the issues are. So the bottom line is we have an opportunity to receive funds that could really greatly benefit our communities, but the county council and the county exec's office have not acted on actually setting up the board that's supposed to be able to handle the funds. I'm assuming that, and hopefully, fingers crossed, assuming that even though we haven't gotten anyone in place yet, hopefully once we do, that money will be given to us retroactively for the years that we have missed. But again,
oh wait, so it's every year there's a certain amount.
It's an
okay,
annual every
and so
year.
we've missed out on some dollars already.
Yes, we missed out on 23, and here we are getting ready to end 24, and there's been no activity on getting that board set up yet. So we may risk, not getting anything for 24 as well. As an annual payout of whatever the percentage is off of the sales tax of the cannabis. And you guys, I love you all because you have one of my favorite words in your title, which is accountability. The terrible lack of transparency in this process means there is really no accountability, right? I mean, we don't know what's going on. Our group we've talked to individual council members. We've sent requests to the subcommittee that's supposed to be handling this issue. It's the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee. Sought meetings, laid out questions. There have been no public hearings. Nothing has been said about this as far as we can see. And on top of that, when it was mentioned earlier in the open mic about it's going to be time for folks to be able to get reelected, and there's elections coming up in 2026, but they should be concerned because there's no response at all from our county council. And I guess they just feel they don't have to respond, but we need to make them respond and get clarification and understanding on what this is really about and who is managing, how it's being managed. Again, Sherman, to your point, that whole grant fiasco, where they called Councilwoman Ivy and others out for having favorites to receive the grants. How are we going to, manage this money so that people who are really doing the work in the community, and not saying that those people weren't, but the bottom line is there are so many organizations. There are actually people that I know that they self-fund the work that they do in the community. They would love to get some of this money to do more work. Who's going to be able to help vet that and make sure that, it's spread equitably?
That's the issue right there.
Well, I would say if you were
I
to speak
have a
on
question.
equity, it would definitely be the People's Council, because they have they said they have some new markers to make sure that equity is spread throughout all the districts. So we'll see about
Mhm.
that. But
But
Tanya, go ahead. You have a question?
yeah, I'm looking at the eligibility, the licensing and the eligibility,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of confused because it looks like individuals can apply also.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the state bill or the county's bill?
The Office of Social Equity website.
Yes. So what that is for, that is actually included in that legislation. There was some things that set up, because before we only had medical cannabis, right? So
Mhm.
now that we have, recreational, they actually allow for folks to be able to apply to be a recreational and medical dispensary. So that's where those licenses come in at. That's for the
Got it.
dispensaries.
So we should be looking under the programs and resources
Yeah,
on this site.
I looked through the whole thing just to see what is possible, but then again, how is our county implementing any of this stuff that they
Right.
have the capability of doing? It's just, I
So,
just don't understand why they're not moving on it.
I mean,
so
it's funny because here they are establishing a workforce development and education committee when the council has no jurisdiction over the school system. But here's something where
Mhm.
they could have a committee and aren't
Mhm.
doing anything.
Mhm. Well, and in the budget, in this last budget, again, not having any really movement on the legislation that I could see, in Councilwoman Ivy's little summary of highlights for the budget that was just passed, there's a $2.4 million line item for this fund. And at first I thought it was okay, well, maybe they're trying to, put some money in so that they can create or, develop and implement and
Mhm.
seat this board. But then when you look at the actual legislation that the county has, the actual funding to support the board is actually still coming from the state fund. It's not coming from the county money. So I'm confused even as to what that $2.4 million was slated for.
Question. It's who
Hold on a
who
second. I'm sorry, Derek. Levon had a couple of questions that we passed over.
oh, I'm
so
sorry.
I did have a question, and then I realized you said CB. I was looking under Maryland State. And so this is money that we are potentially leaving off on the table. I really wish this had come up when she and Calvin were running for the county executive seat. Because we can use this money.
Yes.
Since we got a $200 million deficit. And I'm just really, I'm confused. And I also wonder though, are there any repercussions? And you said this, you don't know if we will get this money retroactively. So I'm wondering who has authority over this. Is this the state treasurer? Is this a Senate committee? Who do you know who the body of authority falls under for the state?
There is the Maryland Cannabis Administration is something I'd looked up, and of course they do licensing, they do data, they're responsible for kind of administering the whole cannabis work that's done in the state. So it would certainly be a place I would start. And I actually did reach out to them to ask them that question, like if a county has not gotten the board implemented and in place, is the money that would have been allocated for any years, is it still available to us? So it would, I would think that administration should be able to answer that question, but I would assume that the money would be with the treasurer or the comptroller somewhere.
Right. Okay.
Maybe being held for us. That's what best case scenario,
We'll put that question out and see who bites.
Derek, you had something.
Kind of on the same wavelength with Levon in terms of you said our county council would choose a board, this, that, and the other, but the grant money comes from another body or another governing body. Who do they
and
have?
A dedicated source as well.
Yeah. Who do they have to monitor the systems that they give this money to make sure that they use the money properly? Because historically in Prince George's County, we've gotten grant money and they've used the grant money for whatever. It may not even be used for what the money was for, and there's no transparency or no tracking system for the community to know how that money was used. Just like Prince George's County schools, we would get federal grant money to do certain things with, and sometimes that didn't happen, and you got dinged for it, or you had to go into some kind of state mandate of reciprocity or whatever. I forget what they called it when we had to do it in transportation because we didn't use some funds correctly. That's going to be very important.
Yeah, but there is in the legislation, each county is supposed to do an annual report as to who gets it, how it's used, and that type of thing. So there is supposed to be some kind of, oversight in that. And again, I would think that will be coming from this Maryland Cannabis Administration. Baltimore did their first report, and I think it's on the Maryland Cannabis Administration's website, if I'm not mistaken, where they submitted their first annual report for 23 on what they did with the money.
No, they need some fiscal help up there, man.
Quick question is okay. So are we saying that is we don't know whether it's you use it or you lose it?
We don't know. I haven't been able to get that answer now.
It might stay in the pot.
Yeah, it might just stay there. I don't know. But
do we know what state bill authorized this specifically for the distribution? Is that what you put in the chat?
No.
It's called the Cannabis Reform Act of 2023. And I'm sorry, I don't have the number.
That's okay. I
did put in the code, so you can check that in the chat. It's the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund.
Okay. Well, here we go again, leaving money on the table.
As always.
It will probably go somewhere where we don't expect.
Well, I don't, I'm just, do they give they issue a list of everyone who had funds distributed each year, right? Because I'm on here trying to find.
She said there's a report.
That's what I'm trying to find.
Yeah, it should be. I thought I saw something on the top of their website, and it said something about, well, there's definitely some data in there so that should be something that would be, reported out either on it should be the Maryland Cannabis Administration that would show which counties have done what.
And
but the Office of Social Equity is the one that is managing the funds for this program, though.
I don't think so. I think the only thing I found that they were doing was actually they did this survey.
Oh, okay.
To be able to try to identify, what those communities really wanted the funds to be used for. They did a report on that. And I'm just going to, like you all, I'm just going to keep track and keep looking at their site, look at Maryland Cannabis site, continue to look at the county council site to see if there's any, meetings or public hearings that might be slipping past. But we shouldn't have to work this hard.
That's right.
To find
I think this new administration is going to bring a whole heap of change, and you're going to get your answer.
I'm going to get it, Sherman. Okay.
You are going to get this. They're probably working on, just making sure that once they consolidate all the power and everything else that they need, they'll go ahead and start making the plans in order to figure out how they want to distribute those funds amongst themselves.
Okay.
But it looks like The Department of Commerce also is working with them on this.
Oh, really?
See, this is one of the problems that I have with government, and one of the reasons why I think Elon Musk was able to come into the government and whack everything up, because we haven't been transparent about how everything is connected.
Right.
And so, you hear one agency and you don't really know all the legs that are touching this, or the hands that are touching this, and so we pay no attention. But yeah, I guess we need to do our homework, because it looks like there's a number of agencies too that are related to this, because I saw a list of cannabis agencies.
Oh,
So
wow.
Beverly, which what are you
messed
hoping
up.
that this fund would particularly be invest? How do you see it being invested in our community? What are your hopes as your organization?
We want to see the funds used to provide solutions to some of the issues that we particularly have seen, with, the youth not having enough resources, their families not having enough resources to be able to be more productive and have other alternatives to some of the behaviors we're seeing. I just want the people to get what they need. Well, here's something I can share with you. So I had a conversation with one of our council members and around this subject, because we were like, so, we know you have these non-governmental grants. We know that there are certain people that always seem to get these year over year. What about, the communities that are really, really hardest hit, that need, additional resources to be able to do things? And so we had a conversation around that. And one thing that struck me in this conversation, when I was saying, well, these are your constituents. These are our constituents too. We need to be able to reach out and engage them more, so that they understand some of the things that, these are your constituents. These are our constituents too. We need to be able to reach out and engage them more, so that they understand some of the things that if they don't want to deal with the community, we have to get the community fired up and engaged. So that they have to deal with the community, because that was terrible. That hurt my feelings. And I vote, but that hurt my feelings for you to just dismiss communities like that.
I've been told that they don't even forget about them going to communities, but they won't let the agencies serve in certain districts because of interpersonal issues, and that's just unacceptable. If I could tell you how many people I didn't want to talk to that I talked to and I smiled at because they pay, we work for them.
Right. Honey, I was showed the little map with the dots, and I was told, you see no dots over there, right? That's why we don't go over there.
Well,
so yeah, it's this is very interesting though. As much as we worked to get this cannabis passed in the county, you would think that somebody would be a cheerleader for it. I mean, it would have been good for that person that was elevated to the Senate to have made this a priority as she was pursuing that seat. I can't imagine how that slipped through the cracks. I would love to know the backstory. Anybody that knows the backstory, hit me up, y'all. Hit me up.
Because I'm totally confused. We keep hearing that mental health is an issue in the county. Mental health is an issue in the county. Mental health is an issue in the county. Exactly. And we are just thumbing our noses up at money.
Well, I don't think you're thumbing your nose. Maybe they just forgot.
Stop it, Sherman.
Maybe because of the planning of the crab feast and all those good jazz dances and all that good stuff.
And the hall thing that I got something for.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in the world.
Priorities.
That's entertainment. It's entertainment that's the priority.
For the 31,000. It ain't for everybody else.
I mean, $10 million.
Any part of that we could use and put it to real good use, right?
Well, we have such great relations with the state. A lot of Prince Georgians have arrived. I can use that word, and they are in top positions. So I would expect that we will have a favorable position when it comes to getting some of the the money from the previous years and include them right now, because as of right now, we're going to step into fiscal year 26.
Yeah.
And it has not been taking place yet. So yeah, we're
And you know what? I don't want to just blame our council people also, because our state legislators always talking about the bacon they brought home. Why aren't they out here talking to their constituents about this?
No, everyone's quiet like this. We can't talk about this for some reason. I don't know why.
Because it's reefer.
They smoke it.
I'm just wondering if there's a back door that we don't know about.
Because it's reefer.
Sherman, I didn't even know you would know that term in your age.
Oh,
exactly.
That's my favorite
Too
word.
young to even know that word.
You're not that young, Sherman.
Y'all call it weed.
I'm not that young.
Right, we call it reefer back in the day.
We call it reefer.
You know, my grandparents definitely use that word. I'm the youngest of like a very long, generation. So, But I was telling them, I have aunts that are like 80 something now, so definitely I've been around with hearing a few things.
But I guess the thing is, okay, so it's marijuana, reefer, whatever we want to call it. But the thing is, we're getting money off of the tax sales, so it's the money's happening just like the casino money. So the money's out there.
Yes. Well, where is it?
And I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy.
It's poor planning.
No, I'm wondering if there's a back door that we don't know about, and the money is coming, and we just don't know.
Yeah,
that someone's using some back door we don't know about.
The bottom line, when you do grants, this also falls under certain categories as procurement. And those people are held accountable for the reporting, etc. I'm looking up now, trying to figure out who is the oversight agency, because if they get a grant, they have to report on that grant. Right. There should be requirements for them to receive the grants and for them to report on the grants and the benefits that the grants have implemented. So I'm confused. I get confused.
Right now, Donna, what we're saying is we don't think anybody's applying. They know the requirements, but nobody's putting the ink to the pen.
Well, you can't, because you don't have the board, and that's what Beverly was trying to say. You need that's the first step. Is to create that board, because that money goes.
No, you saying Baltimore got a board, but
Howard County, Anne Arundel, everybody.
Prince George's County didn't do it.
A procurement department, don't they?
They're separate.
I don't understand why you have to have a board to get something that's already been authorized for the county to receive.
To direct it, just like how the harbor has their board, and that's who manages it and make sure that it's
useless. That board is useless. They may as well just give the money to an agency and let the agency manage the money.
No, but I think they're putting that in there as oversight.
Well,
Well, so you don't have to go running all through the government saying, "Oh, we don't know." You have a committee, and that becomes their liaison.
Yeah, and that's an important, definitely, important position or role that a lot of people would very, very much like to be a part of. So I don't know, we got to look at who are they appointing, what their background is, and what their maybe relationships might be, because we had to do the same thing for the Police Accountability Board.
Well, somebody owe us money, and I'm upset.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm also being told that the tax is going to go up to 12% in July.
Ooh.
And if I'm not getting my
I should have went to the crab feast then. I'm gonna pay all this extra money.
Well, no, you're not buying cannabis.
Yeah, it's the people who are the sales of the cannabis. They are increasing the sales tax.
So everybody
not getting some cannabis.
How do you know what I'm buying?
Because y'all ain't never asked me.
We got other resources.
But you would have came. Don't ask my neighbor.
I'm still confused, including projects again. There's how it's going to be dispersed. There are so many aspects when you're dealing with grants.
Yep.
That are so like when you're doing procurement. These things have to be put in place. I I don't understand how folks.
I don't think they want the accountability, Donna.
Exactly.
Because right now they are loosey-goosey with our taxes. So they don't want something that's going to be monitored.
Well, I beg to differ because the new administration has just appointed someone as a DCAO who has vast experience with auditing and grants and stuff like that. So I think they are going in the right direction. They're trying to do the best that they can, and they're going to make a difference.
Okay, where's that sarcasm sign?
Hip hip hooray!
Where's the sarcasm sign that we can put up?
We got to clean up.
You have to speak those things which be not as though they were.
As though they were.
I've spoken them before.
Yeah.
From your lips to God's ears. There we go.
Okay.
Well, Beverly, do you have anything further for us?
That's great.
That's it.
Beverly.
But basically, like, I think whether it's the cannabis issue, whether it's the school board, whether it's any of these issues, we have got to get more community involvement because they don't listen to anything from us as the usual suspects. People don't always show up at the meeting.
Right.
We're going to rally and ask questions. They need to see the community in mass to be able to understand how serious we're taking this.
We know we like to be prim and prime here in the county, but we're going to have to act up sometimes.
Yeah.
Before you go though, Beverly, I know you came to speak specifically about the cannabis issue, but anything else you want to tell us about the group that you work with? If you all hold any kind of meetings or have any actions, or what was the process for becoming a part of it?
Well, the coalition that I've referenced at first, the Prince George's County Coalition for Police Accountability, we formed that back in 2021-22 when the Maryland Police Accountability Act was passed, because similar to what I just described in terms of this board for cannabis, they had to have legislation for each county as well, who had to establish and implement, seat people on a board. The county council seated so many, the county executive seated so many. So the coalition that is really focused on this right now is we don't hold regular meetings because we're really just trying to be able to, well, we do, but they're not somewhat open to the public unless you really just jump on our email to be able to be invited to because it's all about these specific little one-off issues that we find that pop up in the county, and they keep popping up.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want to, shoot, I wish I had something because my email is really, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna share my my personal organization, the Talking Drum, which is a part of the Maryland Coalition for Police Accountability. That's another larger coalition that works on some of these issues with us. If you want more information or want to contact and want to get involved, just send, go to the talkingdrum.org. That's my organization. Fill out the form that's going to pop up to get more information, and we'll be in contact.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And I just want to say definitely thank you so much for everything that you do in there. For those who don't know, Beverly and her organization was also influential in some of the things that we're trying to do with the juveniles when there were the first implementation of the curfews. We definitely tried to do a town hall to make sure that we understood what some of the teenagers in that age group, in that cohort, what they were going through. And I don't think we have that video still, but it was definitely impactful understanding. So kudos to you, and thank you so much for you wear many hats, and you do accountability in a different way in some of the same form that we do. So what we don't catch, we appreciate you for always looking out, and also for staying engaged with CAG Chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
It's great having you, Beverly.
Thank you.
Come back.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Awesome. And once again, thank Beverly for coming on. And for those of you who are still watching, we appreciate you. We're going to move over to our next segment, and we are going to pass it over to Derek, who's going to talk about the transportation update. There's a lot of new things happening. Bus routes have changed. A lot of new transit ventures are going to be coming to the county, and I wanted Derek to make sure that he update us. So, Derek, go ahead and take it away. Give us a snapshot into what's the future of Prince George's County.
Awesome, awesome. Good afternoon once again. I guess this project is being spearheaded by the Maryland Park and Planning, and it is called the Purple Line 2035. And I must say, looking at their plan and how they laid the plan out in their PowerPoint was very impressive, and it was quite a bit awesome. They met with WMATA, they met with, so they say, people in the community, in the surrounding areas who will benefit from these upcoming advances in transportation. And I'll get into that in a moment. But I do have concern, and I always say this without trying to be negative or come off like a hater, as some people would say. But
You're giving your opinion on it. You're giving your thoughts and opinion on it. Yes. That's all.
I had the opportunity to track one of the Maryland Park and Planning projects that they did for transportation for the new Colin Powell Elementary School. And Tanya kind of helped me put together my PowerPoint on it. And I'm going to go back to the 2035. I'm using this as an example, but that same project they did for Colin Powell Elementary School was awesome on paper. It really was. But once I start digging into the fabric and the essence of the information that they used to develop their transportation around Colin Powell Elementary School, there were a lot of holes. And one of the major holes was that they did the study for the traffic pattern for Colin Powell Elementary School during COVID, when people weren't going to work, they were quarantined, and nobody was on that main thoroughfare of Route 210. So I used that as an example of some of the things that I looked at during this 2035 assessment and improvement of transportation. It was very well put together. I have to say that if you go look at the site and follow what they say they're going to do, they're going to increase bicycle lanes. They're going to increase walk area and walking lanes for pedestrians, and they're going to put up new markings and signage and lighting for people who are walking and riding bikes and that nature. And they have canvassed, according to their report, the community on how to do that and where it is needed. But one of the most alarming things about this report to me was the development of all of that in the southern part of county, down there where you live, Tanya, especially along the 210 corridor in the Fort Washington areas, leading all the way down 210 to the furthest point of Prince George's County, down near the Bronze Road area.
Derek, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Is that those plans to put the share rides with the bikes and all stuff down on 210?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
But the other thing about that, now let me just start with the transit system, the bus. That is Prince George's County's transit system, and I was assistant general manager there from I was at 2014 to 2016 or 2012 to 2014. I can't even remember. And let me just give you an example. Just the transit system in Prince George's County only has one bus depot on DRC Road. And I gave this information in a report to the contractor that I was working for under the bus. And to have one bus depot to service this whole county, I did not see anything in this 2035 project in terms of our transit system to better that. And let me give you an example. They have a Route 21, that services Prince George's Community College all the way up to McCormick Drive and over there by the the BET restaurant, things of that nature. The Route 21 is one of the main thoroughfares. We never could get that route ran on time. It never hit the key indicators that that route was supposed to hit to service that area. So let's say we have a transit depot in the northern part of the county, keep the central DRC Road bus depot, and develop another bus depot further south. And this is how you expand your opportunity to provide people further down 210 and around other counties who are elderly and may not have driver's license anymore. They don't drive. They're able to access the transit system. In this report, specifically from the Route 210 area, I don't know if they expect people to drive from the Fort Washington area to the neighboring metro stations to get the train or the bus or what have you, but there's nothing in this 2035 report, from what I recollect, that is really going to service the most southern parts of this county. And now, my own professional opinion is that when they built 210 and they started developing, or the lack of development of the Fort Washington area, you have old roads that people travel every day, like old Fort Foot Road leading down to Collin Powell Elementary School. That's one way coming up, one way going down, and it's not that wide. And to extend the width of this road, you will be going into people's yards where they live. So I don't know if there is a hesitancy to increase transit, and God forbid we talking about the rail system. They have to work with WMATA to build a subway system down that way. Do we not have the land to do it, or are they afraid of the fight and the pushback from the people who live in the Fort Washington area that may have to give up some of their property for some of this stuff to happen?
It's not just there, though, Derek, going down 301. There's no bus system, and then the bus won't come down as far as to trade zone. So I totally agree. They need to be looking at it. In 2006, they claimed they were going to widen the road, and now we got all these new townhouses, no widened road, and no transportation.
Actually, it goes further back than 2006, because I bought my first house at Meadowbrook, which is in the older Marlboro Meadows community, and that was 1993. And I would say probably 1995, 6, 7, they started talking about access roads on 301 and the light rail. And we have that conversation has just gone by the wayside. But one of the I had a conversation today with someone about growth in South County, and I learned something that I didn't know, and that is that there are what they call arterial roads. That I know about arterial roads because they have some in Westphalia. But what I didn't know is that there are existing ones that have been covered over with townhouses because the persons in leadership at the time waived the builders from opening up these roads and let them, I guess, increase their housing numbers. And so there are connecting roads that we will never have anymore.
Right. That's
some communities like that. They feel as though they don't want a lot of traffic going through. They prefer the one way in and one way out.
Right.
But what's the point of having a master plan if we're not going to stick? The reason why they designed the arterial roads is because they know there's going to be an increase in traffic. And then you're right. We have a lot of houses that are built right on up to the roadside, Woodyard Road, Piscataway Road, Old Branch Avenue, Brandywine Road.
I live on the main road on Piscataway, and for the life of me, and I know that I have to see part of that land, to the government because they own that, but even then, I still question. I'm like, how could they, even if they decided to take a portion of that, it's not really going to expand the road enough. Yeah, it's
Right,
not gonna make a
exactly.
difference. And then it's only gonna make it worse because I already feel like I have to speed to get out of my driveway.
Right.
You know, so
We don't do eminent domain anymore in Prince George's County.
That's
The
what.
other thing that I wanted to mention or ask you, Derek, about this report is called the Purple Line.
2035.
Yeah, you talked about the community meetings. I didn't really have a question, I have more of a comment. They have done a lot of community meetings over the years. There's even some grant funding associated with the Purple Line to help businesses that were displaced when early on. They have nonprofit grants that are available to help with, just community, what's the word? Goodwill. And so I do know that there's been a lot of effort. I was at the University of Maryland campus the other day, and I have to say, I don't like that train coming through Campus Drive. I think it is the worst thing anybody could have ever done. If those people didn't want a subway on the campus 40 years ago, they should have just told them no this go round. The tracks literally run from South Campus. I forget what that road is called. It's not Leland. I think it might be Leland on one side, but it's the other. It's the south side of campus, across Route 1, and up through the campus. And I'm just trying to picture this train running.
Wow.
You know where the Green Line stop is in College Park. So if you know where that is, that's where the tracks are for the Purple Line. It's going to come off of Kenilworth Avenue and come up through that back road and go up to Route 1 and through the campus. Through
the campus? The main campus?
Yep. Through the main campus. It is the craziest looking thing.
And then what, come out on the Delphi side?
I guess so. Yeah. I didn't follow it all the way. I just know, I don't know if it ever goes underground or anything, but I did have another question, Eric. Are we renaming the bus Transit now? I keep seeing these bright blue cars and vans and buses that say Transit. And
they look beautiful.
They replaced the bus.
I'm glad because I kept hearing about that lazy name. But go ahead, Derek. I'm sorry.
When I was there, they used to do something called wrapping the buses. I don't know if this is along the lines of what you're seeing, but we would take the regular looking bus and we would wrap it with advertising or whatever they had on it. So I'm
Transit.
Yeah, I'm as far as I know, and from what I read in this report, it is still called the bus. That is the Prince George's County Transit System. So unless they have done something recently, I would have to research that. But I believe it is still Prince George's County, the bus. Okay,
which only goes where a bus goes. That you have to have a metro bus come there in order for the bus to pick you up.
Okay, well, somebody tell us what
wait, before we go too deep into it, I want to say I looked at some of the new routes that they had, and it looks like they are trying not to compete with, well, actually it looks like they are trying to compete with WMATA or some of the routes, some of the heavily traveled routes. They are adding the bus route to that. So
trying to be like Montgomery County.
Hopefully, again, if there is a WMATA bus going there, but for example, if there was no WMATA bus, you can't have the bus come pick you up, and that was frustrating. When I had at my facility open, I couldn't get transportation to Bowie for doctor's appointments, etc.
Right.
When there was no metro bus, and we couldn't use, first they said yes to the bus, but when they came down and did their inspection, because a metro bus is not within a mile, we could not get the bus to pick up seniors to take them to the senior center or take them to their appointments in Bowie. We had to pay a regular Uber, taxi type of thing to get them there.
And it seems from looking at this report, this 2035 Purple Line report, that some of these areas are still not going to be accessible by the bus. And that's what I don't understand.
That's right.
When you build all the way out to 2035 and you're still not getting a lot of access to the southern part of the county. And think about above Greenbelt to up into Laurel and up to Burtonsville. We don't service those parts of Prince George's County, and we're calling ourselves a transit system, and there's no apparent verbiage in this plan that discloses why these areas are not being on the radar, put on the radar for transit service later. And I'm just, as we grow as a county, I just don't understand why I have not, or anybody that is knowledgeable about transportation that can go research this stuff. Why are we not building at least another big bus lot? We have one transit bus lot with about 93 buses on the bus to service the whole Prince George's County. I just don't understand that.
Derek, and they're not going to be having hours like Metro either, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, from what I saw, they still keep their hours. They start running at 5 or 6 in the morning. They done by 9:30 at night, and they have included transportation recently. I think within the last 4 or 5 years on Saturdays. We used to run the transit bus on Saturday, and that's great. But again, you're only servicing basically the central part of the county and some of the tip of the southern part of the county. Route 36 goes all the way down to the tip of Waldorf on Mattawoman Beantown Road, and that's into Waldorf with an agreement that we had with Waldorf at the time, and I was responsible for doing the research on Route 36. In fact, they asked me what was the best route to send that bus to do the Route 36, and I insisted on that. But at that point in time, I tried to say, hey, look, man, this thing can be bigger than this. We can extend this thing, Fort Washington. We could extend this thing to Baden, down past Brandywine. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe the eminent domain thing, LaVon, you talked about, nobody wants that fight, or, they don't want to pay the people whose, property they may have to use to create this stuff. And I get it. I understand, people don't want their homes or property torn up for expansion, but there's nothing in this report from what I see that entertains or explains to people that live down in your area, Tanya, people that live in Burtonsville, why we are not making transportation accessible to them without having to get in a car and drive somewhere to get on it. But by that time, you can drive on to wherever it is you got to go.
Oh, yeah. And I'll say this. I know for a fact that, it's such a huge issue for even people further than Baden, because down in Eagle Harbor, when I spoke with people down there, their complaint was, getting to medical appointments and things like that when they're car dependent. And just so everybody know, there are times where you may not have your vehicle and you may need to catch the bus or a train or something like that. Myself, to drop my car for repairs, what was I going to do after that? I mean, I could rent a car, but for a day, accessibility in those aspects, we definitely should look at it from that standpoint. South County has a lot of land, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. I know they may probably think that, have the number of bus stops or the timing and that, may be an issue, but I believe that there is a way that we can actually make transportation accessible for all.
Right. And the other important thing, Sherman, was that they said that they canvassed and worked with members of Prince George's County Department of Transportation. I worked in that department from 1998 to 2011. And the only thing that we really collaborated with park and planning was if new developments were coming up and new streets and things, we would work with them to get the most updated map so that we could route our buses in the most efficient and productive ways. But if they are meeting, then we need to talk about more getting back to bus stops in the beginning of neighborhoods, which is, I know, that's going to be a sore spot for a lot of people because they have been spoiled to get buses right at their corner or even at their front door in some instances. But if you want your school bus systems transportation to run efficiently, just like a transit bus system, you don't get to call the transit office and tell them, I want the transit bus to come to my front door.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So we have to get back to safe community stops where the bus is picking up people. And I'm talking about like the transit bus does, as well as the school bus. You pick up people as close to the major thoroughfares that bus has to travel so that we can get these children in our community where they need to go on time. When you start going too deep into neighborhoods providing transportation, that causes the bus driver to get off route and have to get back on a major thoroughfare and then go on about their business. That is a sore topic. I know it is, but we have to make the hard decisions if we want to be efficient as our county grows and you guys continue to put up houses and townhouses. People in those houses need to get to where they need to go. And like Sherman said, they may not always have a car.
Or you may have a visitor. I mean, trying to get to and from the airport. You know, there's many reasons why you would want to take public transportation or need to take it.
Exactly.
And the luxury of the option of having it there will make it all the better.
Yeah. But in closing, man, I think the way that they presented the project was done very professionally. It was good to the eye and it sounded good. They even talked about the upkeep and building up parks for families to go out, enjoy, and take their kids to, and be able to play in the park. I mean, these are the types of things that I think we do need in Prince George's County to bring the community back together, because we've had so much harm during the COVID system and the lack of using funds for what they're supposed to be used for in the community to make the community better. So if they're really, really serious about some of the things that they're going to do in this 2035 project, I think it's a good thing. I would just like to see some of the further northern counties and southern counties be able to participate in this 2035 purple line, more efficiently for them.
You're here.
All right. Thank you so much, Derek. We really appreciate that. That was a lot of important information for people who aren't truly aware of the transportation or of the changes and why exactly we are doing what we're doing and what we should be doing. I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Tommy.
Hey, Chairman, just in closing, real quick, I would just behoove the community to start speaking out. Stop being afraid to say what you got to say to get what you need to enjoy the area that we live in. CAG is not here to just dog and talk about people. We're out here fighting for you so that we can get some of the things that we as a community need to grow. So join us, man. Come join us.
Some people have to use what they got to get what they want.
That's right.
Sometimes, y'all. Hey, Sherman, do we have that report on our page? Did we link that already? Share that already?
What is it? Can't hear you, Sherman.
Sherman's like,
you can't hear me
on the spot.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
have we already
which
shared
report?
The link that you sent to share with me, Sherman, on the municipal park and planning 2035 purple. Man, that was a well-written report, I will say. So they go and look at that. They can see all of the things that I'm talking about. They even give you maps of the areas like y'all said with the dots on it. Sutherland County did not have a lot of dots. So that was concerning for me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that report. And we'll definitely go ahead and post that on the page and into this chat as well. Moving on to our next segment. There is some very important updates that is happening in the schools. House is out. Sean Joseph is in. He is the new interim superintendent that they replaced him with. And Tanya has a lot that she has to say that she wants to update us on. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Tanya. And thank you so much. And
wow, where do we begin? You know, I think again, so often we try to share information to encourage those out there that are listening to us and sharing with other people to get involved. And this is what we saw happen over the past week and a half is one of the reasons why you really should get involved. It's amazing, and the reason why I say that, when I was heavily in the PTA, I remember I worked with local PTAs to do a vote of no confidence vote against the superintendent at that time. And we did this no confident vote, and it was announced, but it was made clear to us that that would be something that the board could look at for not termination, but because they had to look at they had their own rubric or performance guidelines that were set up for evaluating the superintendent. At that time it was the CEO. And that's what they had to stick to, because what we were putting out was our opinion based on our experience. And it's not to say that our opinion was disvalued, but we had to understand there was a process in place, and the board had legal obligations and a contract that they had to follow. So it was really shocking to see the president of the teachers union step up and have it be announced that the teachers union had met and the teachers had did a vote of no confidence. Luckily, we have people on our page that share information. We find out that it was a survey that was done, so it wasn't like they met, but it was a survey, and only 8% of the people participated. Now, my understanding is that there's about 10,000 members in PGCEA. So 8% participation comes out to about 640 votes. I'm not the best with math, but I know it ain't 1,000, so I know that much. So the misrepresentation of the numbers that came out of PGCEA, I think it was a discredit to our children that was done. And then to hear, and of course she made all the rounds of the news, so we know that this was a well-funded campaign. Because she showed up on WHUR, what it wasn't there was another, like I think it was on WJLA, but anyway, just her comments that were made. He's not meeting with the teachers. I want to know how many CEOs meet with not even the managers. You're not even meeting with management level at that, but how many CEOs of companies go and meet constantly with their lower, your first level, let's say your frontline workers.
Frontline. Mm-hmm.
I just would like to know how many CEOs do that. I would like to, then teachers want better pay. Well, that's a national issue. That is a national crisis. Teachers don't want to, we're losing teachers. That's a national issue that's been happening for decades, ever since we allowed boards like the one we have stick their nose into education and think that they know education better than the educators. So that's not the administration, that's your board that does that. So some of the things that were said were so superficial. Some were superficial, and then some are just national issues that every school system is going through. And after maybe about 2 decades of this same conversation, things are not being resolved. So to have this president of the union come up and say, put out misinformation to say that 75%, there we go, yes. Yeah, 75% of those surveys that came back 75%. So what's that old say? Numbers don't lie. Liars use numbers to spin things the way they want. So let's make clear of what the president of the teacher union did. And then to hear the president of the teacher union says he needs to go. He needs to go is one of the comments that she made. Again, like I said, we were PTA parents. We had kids in the school. She don't have no kids in the school system. We were being directly impacted when we did our vote of no confidence. And even after that, the board, the appointed board, which has been the best board that we've ever had, we may not have agreed with their decision, but we had to respect it because they were following the law and they were honoring the contract, so that even though we were upset about what our kids were facing, they had to look at things in totality and what would be the impact of the system to just yank out because of the parents doing the vote of no confidence.
Right.
So that's one thing people need to really think about with that message coming from the teachers union. I like one of the retired teachers that came onto our website and said to the teachers, if you are so unhappy and you have all these problems, look in the mirror. Wow. I loved that comment. You can go to our page and you can read who posted that. Because that is somebody living in reality about what's going on. Now, let's fast forward. The school board has an obligation of governance, and they have policy and laws in place to govern or to give guidance as to how they are supposed to provide oversight. And it doesn't include becoming advocates, especially advocates when you are going against you're going against the administration that is working to make everybody successful. So you don't go and take the word of one union president who ain't got no kids in this school system being impacted at all. Everything she talked about were adult issues. They were not children issues. There were not the issues in the classroom. He's not meeting with teachers. We want more pay. Again, those are things that are national issues. But here we have our board meeting with the superintendent. And I understand, sometimes we say, well, graduation rates, we can't say that makes a big thing with our system. But we were coming out of COVID. And so we've had back-to-back superintendents that have been very strategic. They have had excellent people on their staff to bring forth plans to get our kids back on track. So that now, I think the last we looked at the data, it shows that we have had improvement in just about every grade over the last 3 years, to the point where we are now at 80% graduation rate. When I started doing some research on that, the highest that we've had in the state since 2017 has been 87%. So we are at 80%, but you are letting the comments of someone saying no confidence because you're not meeting with teachers. We want more pay. We need more teaching time. We need more teachers to stay in the industry. So those things are going against the fact that more students are graduating, more students are performing higher. And I don't understand how our board can not look at the academic success, but look at what the personal gripes are and make a determination we need to go in another direction. Another thing that the public needs to pay attention to. Here we are again. Mr. House had a 4-year contract. So we have an obligation to pay out 2 of those years because his separation wasn't based on performance. It was based on a gripe from one union saying he's not meeting with teachers. And I'm gonna keep saying that. He's not meeting with teachers. We want more planning time. We want more pay, and we need better retention with our teachers. Let me add this one also. We need more safety in the classrooms.
Well, Tanya,
I
thought you were going to say something, but you kept going when you was like, and we need to pay. That you're going to stop right there, because if that's what the union is saying and the county felt so strongly about it, where are we going to get this money to pay?
I wish I knew.
Because we're already struggling to pay for the blueprint. I'm not saying that we don't need it, because there is definitely validity to it, but we're still trying to figure out how the hell we're going to pay for it.
Right.
And that's the key component. So if they are saying that teachers deserve more, did they come up with solutions on where we're going to get this money from? Are they going to go out and advocate to remove trim? Are they going to beat up people like, Baker, who went out and said that we need to raise, more funding for educators? Because we all agree that educators need to be paid more, for the amount of BS that they put up with. And as far as safety, they wasn't the ones who removed and changed the laws and the handbooks and everything else like that. It was the school board. They changed it and made it, to this effect. And I know you like to talk about the SROs in the school district, or not that, but there were far more than that as well, as far as like ensuring how we don't suspend them and, different things like that. There were different things. And some of that was excessive. But when you remove the accountability portion from it, and now kids are becoming children of the corn, and you want to turn around and say, well, we don't feel safe. I haven't heard that much of an outroar to the point where we're saying we need to fire somebody.
Well, and not only that, you're going to tell the superintendent to fix it when those were community choices that went against the recommendation of the superintendent. Now, and remember, this goes back to Dr. Golson, who was trying to explain what would happen by taking out all these safeguards. But we had people that were set on their way, and they were set in their mind on what they said was best. And so it was the board, like you said, Sherman, that got the votes to override the recommendations of the superintendent. So you got what you got, but I don't see anybody saying anything about these board members. Matter of fact, elected another one that was there voting that way to a higher office while you send the superintendent packing. One other thing I just want, the next point I just want to really.
You're talking about safety. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, because ask the question. The other point I want to drill home is Mr. House was supposed to get his evaluation on the 30th of June. So
what were the evaluations prior to? Did they have any demarcations that there was some trouble? But that's a personnel matter, so we probably would never find out.
No. They are supposed to discuss that with the public. That is something that they're supposed to share with the public. No specific things like what his salary is and all that stuff. But that is something that they disclose. But we haven't heard any complaints from the board saying how bad he was and all of this stuff. But the thing is, his evaluation was supposed to be done on June 30th. This couldn't wait for June 30th? Which doesn't make sense.
Have an inquiry, the public couldn't have an inquiry to be made work because essentially, I mean, I guess they're saying that it was mutual. He was like, okay, well, this came out, it may make me look bad, so I'm gonna just go ahead and buy on out so I can save
Yeah,
face.
well, we know how that game is.
Quiet as kept. I
Well,
would have took the money and ran too, so I didn't have to deal with the headache. I'd be like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna let
I
y'all do
look.
what y'all do, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna enjoy this beach over here for a little while until I find something else.
Look, he stands to walk away with a nice parachute. And I
How much
understand.
did the last one get?
About close to $1 million with salary and benefits.
Can I be a superintendent?
You know what? That's the new retirement. Come to Prince George's County and be a superintendent. Get your 4-year contract. Stay for 2 years. Just do anything, and then
Two-ish.
he'll
I
pay
mean,
you
that's
out.
kind of overboard, to be honest.
Listen, and that's not even to say what the afterlife is. Dr. Maxwell is on speaking engagements. He has continued to generate income for his contribution to, or his insight and education. I ain't mad at
No,
him.
but the point is, we've set this system up here because of a school board where a superintendent can come in here and get a good retirement package, no matter, because all you have to do is not do what they want.
But my point is, who is not credible in this discussion?
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
Yeah, let me finish with that point, because that's an important point as to who is not credible. Other than, I think we've already made it clear, it wasn't the president of the teachers union that's not credible. The board is not credible because none of this makes sense. We are just a week and a half away from trying to reconcile our budget. So during this reconciliation period, we're going to bring in somebody totally from the outside when he has a senior staff qualified to go ahead that could have acted as, and let's say he did say, look, I'm tired of y'all, I'm out. There's senior staff that could step in and do this interim job, because according to the law, the position, I believe it just said it's up through July 1. Well, that's about 2 weeks away. So again, it makes no sense, and it makes you start to wonder what is the broader plot behind this?
Right, the collusion.
Exactly, because none of that makes sense. So yeah, credibility. You push him out. I'm going to say push out. Not that he separated, because there was no, if he had done that bad, according to his contracts, you would have had grounds to fire him, and there would have been no more paying. It would have been done. But that wasn't done. Then you're ready to, and another thing, let's watch, because the board, during the last budget work session, our board members added about close to $1 million of pork into the budget against the recommendation of our CFO and Mr. House. So remember, all that pork that they were trying to push now is still hanging out there and can be stuffed into the budget because House is gone. And we have not gone through budget reconciliation yet. So we need to be watching these board members for all of these positions that they want to staff in the board, because they're claiming that their oversight role is so complicated. But anyway, so another thing that gets on to credibility. If you listen closely to the press conference, Sherman, can I share a screen real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if you listen closely to the press conference that was given. So remember, during that press conference, we had our county executive elect. And wait a minute, I gotta switch my screen. Which screen do you all see?
We see the briefing, the press conference.
Okay. So yeah, we can see that. That's fine, because you do see these. You do see the elect person, the interim person, and you see two of our legislators that are attorneys here. So remember, during the press conference, the county executive elect mentioned that she had been she said for some time, I think she said for several weeks, she may have said, but she alluded to that she was getting complaints from board members about Mr. House. Now, remember, that's a violation of law, that she would meet with them, because the only person that has the authority to select an interim superintendent or a permanent superintendent is the sitting county executive, which at that time was the acting county executive, Tara Jackson. So why is our state's attorney at that point? She's still state's attorney, the highest. She holds the position for the highest law enforcement in our county. Why is she breaking the law by sitting up here meeting with these board members and possibly exposing us to some legal liability, because they could be disclosing personnel information or private information of Mr. House that they should not be disclosing to her, because she's not the county executive. But she's sitting up here taking that information in. Also, the law does say that the county executive gets to select, but there's a process to doing it. She says in her press conference, my team is what she said, not the team that the law says that you're supposed to have in place to do a search. We don't even know who the team is. That has not been disclosed. So this is our county executive elect who's going to come in and make all these great changes. We're going to see a new day. And she's coming out of the gate breaking the law or participating in some unlawful acts. Here we have two attorneys, our legislators, two of our state legislators, they're attorneys, nice smiling, sitting up here participating. They write the legislation, so they should know it better than anybody else. But they're up here breaking the law, because she shouldn't have been having conversations with our board members. It should have been with Tara Jackson if they thought they were going to fire Mr. House. But here they are smiling, two attorneys, while the laws are being broken. Here we have the interim selection. I don't know how, and people need to understand this too. I don't know how he was selected, because one, he's an associate with the company that the State Board of Education selected to do our searches for superintendents and more of those higher level positions within administrations. Well, he's an associate there. He does searches for Maryland.
Conflict of interest.
What was that word that you said, Levon? Collusion. Does it? And what makes it even bad is he abruptly left Prince George's County. So I don't know all the details as to why he left. We just know he left. Went to Tennessee, but he was here at Tennessee. And Donna, you're familiar with that, because he was here during the time that folks like you were blowing the whistle on improper procurement practices, for which you were terminated as a whistleblower. So he's well familiar with what was going on in this county. Yep. But what does he do when he becomes the head of the school system in Tennessee? He doesn't say, you know what, I'm going to do it right because what I saw where I came from was the wrong thing. No, he does exactly what he saw here in Prince George's
Same
County.
thing.
Starts steering contracts and then misrepresenting information to board members when questioned about it, to the point that his contract was terminated.
In one meeting, right? They had one big meeting and they were like, you're out.
Yeah. And not only that, remember,
a public meeting.
Exactly. But remember also, they threatened to have his license suspended. So he did some type of negotiation with them. And I think he gave up a teaching license. So we just need to know, we need to see it in print that he has the correct certification for Maryland. I mean, I'm just really surprised that that didn't even come up in the vetting that was done.
There was vetting?
There
was vetting?
That's what she claims.
Oh, that was...
Remember, she said her team.
That was real quick because that was only what, 24, barely 24 hours. I think it was
24 hours.
Well, remember she said they started a few weeks ago.
Right, but House had not submitted his agreement. They had not agreed to
a few weeks ago. They hadn't even done the vote, did they?
Exactly. It was right after the vote.
Nope, that's exactly right.
She said they were hearing that there were some issues. And so she and her team, in anticipation or preparation, I don't want to misquote, but she was basically saying it was out in these streets that Mr. House was going to be leaving. So I wanted to do this, that, and the other. Now, she had come up with somebody that had never been in the school system before. I think I could have a little bit more respect for the idea that there was some vetting or some.
That's right.
I mean, just read the law. Go ahead.
Can I just say something? I just want to say that there are going to be a lot of changes coming soon, and we are very because not only this, we're also going to have a new officer, integrity office. Because I'm gonna just go ahead and play this clip so everybody else can be aware of it.
Actually, cutting everywhere else.
Lordy.
But some of the collaboration might not cost as much of anything. So that's the first thing that I want to say. The second around this integrity and compliance officer.
Veronica, is that you?
I definitely understand the intention and the thought behind this role. You definitely want to have someone who is rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse. What I have seen is more of a focus on former school board members than anything else.
Okay, can you cut that? Let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. That's because those former board members are committing crimes and stealing money from students. So, you notice he didn't say the names. You know he didn't say the name David Murray, who lied and ended up getting paid $10,000 while he was not here, functioning in his office as a school board member, but he was in Missouri working another job. He doesn't mention that it is Shayla Adams Stafford, who was just sworn in to the county council after it was determined that she submitted invoices for payment during a time. Exactly. Because there was no matter for her attorney to bill against. So let's be honest. He is weeding out
bygones be bygones?
Waste. Huh?
Can we just let bygones be bygones at this point and just move forward with a new vision?
Give us $36,000. Give us $36,000 and $10,000, and we won't say nothing about anything.
Tanya,
give it back to the system.
I have a question for clarity as it pertains to the interim superintendent. Prince George's County Public Schools is a huge school system. It has a lot of integral parts. I really haven't read a lot about Brother Johnson, but does he have a long history or a history at all of being a superintendent of a system this large and some.
No,
Thank
no.
you.
His first school system, I think it was like 88,200. It was in Delaware, somewhere around that number. In Tennessee, it was about 86,000 students.
Right.
So right.
We're already in turmoil as it is in our school system. And no disrespect to Brother John, I don't know him,
but they said he was the number 2, right? At one point. Here?
He was deputy superintendent of teaching and learning.
He was like a number 3, 4.
Oh.
Yeah, so he was a little, yeah. But the other thing, Derek, getting to your point, which is I think is another important point, is that you see superintendents get fired and they go get other jobs. He was terminated. His contract was terminated in 2019. He has not worked in a school system since. He's not been affiliated with any K through 12 school system since his contract
was higher learning,
terminated.
higher education.
Yeah, he's been a part-time, what is it? He's been a assistant professor at Howard University. But let's talk about his company, Joseph and Associates.
Before we go into the company, I do want to finish playing this clip, let people know that heads are still going to roll.
Yeah, and we're going to work on that too. Go ahead.
ROI.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, I am concerned about it, and I know that that's a council appointee. Maybe we need to look at that, but I didn't realize that you were spending $1.5 million on this office. I didn't realize that.
He just gave that to his
concern.
And look who's in there, Mr. Moss, who hasn't even been on the board for 6 months.
I definitely would like to talk to you guys offline about that. Maybe Ariane.
Offline.
Here you go.
Collusion.
Because it was attached to state legislation, but was the entire purview of what they're supposed to focus on there? Or is there any room for helping?
Well, yeah, we can turn it off because she doesn't know what she's talking about. What she's saying is not even accurate. So let's turn that off. She needs to figure out how we're going to close the $200 million.
I'm very interested in.
So I have a comment. How does he not know that this office was $1 million and some dollars when he was sitting as a council member when the whole thing was pulled together?
Well, wait a minute. Let's take it all the way home. He's the one who had Alonzo Washington sponsor the legislation for him.
Right.
He is the one who put the contents in there. So this old play thing that I'm so concerned as your chair, he had that bill written. Alonzo Washington sponsored it for him. It was sloppily written, like so many other bills that we have up there that get passed as legislation, but he knows everything about it because he wrote it so that he can keep keep his hands in the school system once he got pushed off the board and moved to the council so that they could dismiss our request to have him removed from the board. Let's just come on.
So the thing about this clip is why is he needing to have an offline conversation with school board members about what this job is?
Well, let's not say school board member. Dr. Felton Moss.
Tanya.
Okay, Felton Moss. And so my thing is to me that's inappropriate right there, because this is public money. It should be public discourse. If the man is producing and doing the work, then it's not a personnel matter. And this is where we're continuing to have these gray areas with appointees versus employees.
Well, I think it goes even deeper than that. First of all, you remember I told y'all that legislation was unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a shame that the governor signed it. It's a shame that are state legislators, like these two here who break the law, but then you vote for stuff that's just outrageous. You have a branch of government dictating to another branch of government. That is a violation of our checks and balances through our Constitution. So that's first and foremost. That's why I said the minute that passed, I was like, this is ludicrous. We passed a unconstitutional law. Second, for him to say the council has and the law does give them the right to hire and fire the person, but they're only doing it because he only investigated 2 board members. And those were the board. Now, if there's more board members out there doing illegal things, then I'm sure it'll come up. But those two
Well,
were
it's a
2 board
falsity for the
members.
simple fact that it wasn't just board members. He also investigated, which I reported on, the issue with the school and their turf rebuild when they
That
were,
turf.
yeah, exactly, when they spent an excessive amount of money when it was already just going to be less than like $15,000 to do, and it ballooned into $100 and something thousand because they did not check it how they're supposed
Yep.
to be, and so that was reporting. But also, if I know it's a lot that goes on Prince George's with the national news and everything else in the world, but if you all recall, they recently had an article come out that said that he was getting a lot of pushback from the board and not receiving a lot of information as it pertains to when he was trying to do his investigation. So they were, at every turn, they were fighting him and preventing him from getting what was necessary for him to do his investigation. So perhaps that's something that should be talked about offline with the council member, to figure
Well,
out
you know what
how.
needs to be talked about even more, though, Sherman?
Mhm.
The council should not have the authority to hire or fire for that position.
Right.
That is like an inspector general position, and I would hope that the other council members would not allow Mr. Burrows, who wants to sit up here and act like he's so freaking concerned. The only thing he's concerned about is 2 of his good friends got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And now it's public. That's the only thing he's concerned about.
And let's not forget, he was taught he was cited with committing his own fraud and abuse of power in the judge's decision about Juanita Miller's case that, if I'm not mistaken, can still be adjudicated and should have been investigated, but it was overlooked. And so I believe that what the fear is that as we continue to chip away at all of these inappropriate actions, that we're going to start, that Mr. Turner is going to start uncovering some other
even more
issues
now,
that do not have a sunset on criminality.
Yep.
And let
Tanya,
me get
can
back
you
to
come
one
back
other.
on camera, please? I just want to say that before thank you very
Am I
much.
back?
And
Okay.
also,
One
before
other
we
thing.
get further
Okay,
into it, I just want to say also that by them saying it's a million, 1.5 million or something like that dollars, but again, as I stated, they have given Progressive Maryland, they have given Jones House, and
Teacher
I forget
change
change makers, well over $1 million at this point. And we're
of our
talking
tax dollars.
a department that's supposed to be making sure that we're being good stewards of our finances. One thing that plagues this entire county, and that is a problem that people just don't understand. And they wonder, we pay so much in taxes, where is our money going? And while you may feel like it's $1 million here, a couple of $100,000 there, it all adds up. It all adds up. And what we're doing is we're ceding our power and our control over our governance and making sure that everything is copacetic. We're ceding that and says, okay, well, we're just going to go ahead and do this because they ain't watching, they ain't paying attention. Even if they do, it's only a handful of people that's going to get up every day and cry and complain. And, quiet as it's kept, to hell with them. Because they'll laugh at our face. They really do.
Well, I want to make it clear, since he wants to use big old words or big old acronyms like ROI. We are getting the return of our investment, because if he had not done the investigation, everybody would have thought that the $36,111.92 of invoices that Shayla Adams Stafford, Councilwoman Shayla Adams Stafford now, fraudulently submitted for payment, nobody would have thought anything. If he had not done his investigation, we wouldn't have never known that David Murray was paid $10,000 fraudulently because he said, I'm still here, part of the board, knowing that he was in Missouri. So we are getting our ROI. Maybe you don't know what ROI is, return on investment. We are getting it, sir, because he is showing the fraud, the abuse, and waste of our tax dollars. And hey, this could have gone away. All Shayla had to do, or Councilwoman Shayla Adams Stafford, all she had to do was pay us the $36,000, like the other board member who paid back his money that was paid to his attorney. All David Murray had to do was pay us back the $10,000. It wouldn't be a conversation. Just give us back our money because you're not in the position anymore. But no, you want to sit up here, play hardball, and not know you're wrong and won't even admit it. But now let's get back to this interim situation, y'all. The other thing about the interim person that's selecting, which we know they could not have done proper vetting, he represents that he has a consulting firm, Joseph and Associates, where he goes out and he does coaching for superintendents. Now, everybody who's an LLC in Maryland, you file your annual taxes, you pay your I think it's $350 because I dissolved my company, so I don't pay it anymore, but I think it's about $350 you pay annually. He's sitting up in here not in good standing, but he's operating his business. That is a pattern, y'all. That is a pattern. Then you come back to the county, you accept a appointment that is just messy. And I would think that you would, knowing what you just came out of in 2019 and you haven't had any affiliation with a school district in the K through 12 environment, you would have probably did your homework and said, you know what, wait a minute, this process isn't right. If I'm going to participate in this, it has to be right. No, you just slide on in and give a nice speech about what you're going to do.
Can I comment? I mean, this right here is just, y'all have to forgive me. I'm usually not that expressive, but man, what are we thinking about? I mean, we have lost accountability in our school system. We have lost discipline in our school system. It's hard for a teacher to teach a child who can spit, punch, start a fight with them or whatever, and there is no ramifications. I am telling you guys, we have got to get back to a superintendent who we're going to give them the authority under their professional training and expertise to be a superintendent to run the school system. You can't have all this politics involved in trying to teach kids. These kids aren't getting the best, and you keep going out getting we get turnover in the superintendent seat every couple of years, every 2 years, so there's no continuity. There's nobody. I mean, if a superintendent came in here and started dealing with discipline, hey, if a kid cusses out, hits, or does anything to a teacher, back in my day, back in LaVon's day, back in Time's day, back in Dom's, your behind is getting expelled. Then you have to go through the expulsion process to get back into somebody's school system. If school system you were expelled from, there's no discipline. There's no discipline of our teachers. Unfortunately, they are not paid the proper way, but there's just no accountability all the way around. And then to come back and bring in a gentleman who I do not know him in an interim status in a system that is already failing and you don't even give the man his job review on June 30th to tell him that, hey, we don't like what you do. I mean, everything is just messy, as y'all say, collusion. And I don't see us getting any better anytime soon with all the chaos. We need to hire a tenured superintendent who has years of experience and success as a superintendent to come in here and allow he or she to expound that expertise and professionalism onto our school system without the political mess with and the political uh, uh, jargon and what they want to do to fill their pockets. Is that going to happen? Probably not. But we all know what needs to happen. And as a community, we should not sit back and continue this turnover in a position that requires someone to really know what they're doing when you're running a school system this big. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves as African Americans who ascended to the county council position and the county executive position to let our school system go down like this. And it's close to my heart because if I can be educated in this system and feel as though I've had a successful life until it was messed over by the school system, and other people can go out and be successful under the school system, we ought to be rising up, fighting for our community and fighting for our school system, because people don't even want to go to Prince George's County Public Schools no more because it's in such disarray. And y'all ought to be ashamed of yourself. You really ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
And with that, Derek, I just want to do this timeline real quick because Levon, I want you to be able to ask some questions on this. I just want to show this timeline. I want everybody to think about this timeline. Now, we have been I've been sharing with this timeline that I've been working on, you guys. And this stuff, again, like Levon has said, the collusion that has been going on. Let me just increase this. I don't know if y'all can see it. Can you all see this on the screen now?
Yeah, take your
A lot
toolbar
more.
out.
Take what out?
The toolbar.
Is that better?
Just keep zooming in.
Okay, because I don't want to go back into
That's fine.
Okay, let me move this out the way too. Okay, so we all need to understand that this thing that we see happening with House started back in November of 2024. This here is the plan of Progressive Maryland. As you can see, this is where they told people that were buying into this plan where to donate. And their contact was Larry Stafford, Executive Director, Progressive Maryland. This is a home address listed for Larry, and you can see his email. So let's look at what they had planned. So 2022, they talked about the state legislation that gets into the P3s. And because of that, they were looking for candidates that they could put on the school board so that they can start looking at candidates that would be project labor agreement friendly. So they would be pushing this, and that way, all of these labor unions, and you need to go look at the contributions to board members, county council members, like Edward Burrows, also Shayla Adams Stafford. You can look at their records and see the labor unions that have contributed to them. So this is the plot right here to make sure that they get board members in here so that they can get access to those construction contracts. Now, they really laid this plot out here good. Here's one of the things that they said in this plot. It says Murray has confidentially indicated that he is not seeking re-election, though his name is on the ballot. Why did they say they were going to do that? Let's get down to here where it says District 1 for Tiffany Anderful, who's their person that they wanted to get in the office. David Murray, incumbent, will drop out, leaving Anderful unopposed. That's their collusion in here. Now, even though they put District 5 person Robin Brown here, Robin Brown, once she found this, we shared this, and we shared this with all of the candidates. They all were able to see it through what we showed on the CAG chat. Robin immediately posted on our page and told Larry Stafford to remove her from anything that they were doing. She said, and so she immediately separated herself. You can see Felton Moss. Poor Kenny. Kenny used to be part of the clique, but he fell out of grace with them. And then for District 8, it didn't matter. Whichever one, they were both part of them. And so you can see a number of unions and advocacy groups are interested in working together on an independent expenditure to support the election of Brown, who refused their help, and Moss, who's now in office, who you see everywhere smiling at just about every event. And they even set up a fundraising process. So here we go. The first plot of what they were trying to do. And see, this and House couldn't be here for this stuff to happen. They have to have a superintendent in place that will do what they say. And that was not House. That's the first plot. If you go back and you look at many of the rallies that PGCEA had about their contract negotiations, you will see Council Member Edward Burrows smiling up there with them. And I have come into possession, which we will be sharing, an email from a member of PGCEA, and it's and this email happened. It was sent on the 13th of June, right after they ousted Mr. House, saying Ed. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people named Ed. I just know one person named Ed that's been trolleying around with members of the teachers union. But it said, Ed, we need to hurry up and get
they never seen this document before.
Huh?
They said they never seen this document before.
They'll see it. Oh yeah, I'm sure they haven't. We got this from a reliable source. Just like $36,000 was spent on representing somebody and defending themselves against the ethic panel. So we take it with a grain of salt. But we will be sharing this. And the day after they oust House, then this union representative emails and say, hey, Ed, we need to meet so that we can talk about our negotiations and get things pushed through. So now House is out of the way. They get their interim person in here. And basically the road is clear for them to get whatever they want. How are we going to pay for it? We don't know.
Wow.
These are the things we got to watch for. So LaVon, you take it away.
I'm just flabbergasted. You hadn't shared this, so I didn't see this.
Yeah, I had to keep this confidential.
I mean, hey, it's all good. First of all, let's back to the announcement. I just have a few things that I want to point out. First of all, there was not one board member present. And I don't know who the woman was standing to the right of the podium.
You don't remember? Yeah, you don't remember her? She's from the transportation union.
No, I don't know her. So she now in line with them. So Yeah, maybe if I looked at her again, I would remember her. Tell me her name.
Essence, I believe it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And then I don't understand the purpose of delegates Nicole Williams and Tiffany Alston being present. I don't understand Council Chair Burrows introducing State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy. And then I don't understand why the esteemed school board chair.
County executive.
No, she's the state's attorney.
She's not sworn in yet.
I don't understand why the esteemed school board chair, Brandon Jackson, was MIA. Now he got a little perturbed because I sent him a 6 a.m. text and I wasn't paying attention to the time because my sleep habits are getting a little weird lately. But I just, reached out to say
I ain't gonna say nothing about it either.
Progressives, you know what? You be blowing me up. I don't even want to hear it.
Sherman keeps receipts.
I know what I said, but it's all good. Anyway.
Everybody knows that.
But y'all get up early. So if I text y'all early, it's not a bad thing.
Girl, I don't get up early. I barely get up at 7 o'clock.
I'm up.
Beautiful work.
Okay, so anyway, y'all, that's kitchen table.
Tanya,
right.
So my thing is I sent him a text saying before, that this is messy. Why you playing in the mud? Because remember, he told us that he was not a progressive, Tanya. He was very adamant about that, and we shouldn't put him in a box. But lately, his actions don't say that he's not aligned with the progressives.
Well, maybe he's not, but he just caucused with them.
So I sent him a text and said, "What's up with this? This superintendent house thing is very messy." No response. I sent him an early morning text that said, "Progressive Rebels 1, constituent 0." And an hour later, I get a whole dissertation admonishing me for, contacting him at an ungodly hour on his personal phone, and he's willing to have a conversation with me. And so I said, you know what? You're right. Sorry. I apologize. I didn't pay attention to the time, but no discussion necessary. I done said everything that I need to say to Brandon. I supported Brandon for his seat to the best of my ability. I did not know Brandon this council seat. For this school board seat.
I was about to say.
Right, for the school board seat. But his behavior has been interesting to watch. And I think that people, I'm not necessarily speaking specifically of him at this point. So I want to be clear, period. Brandon over with. I believe that people who may be well-intentioned are letting their personal, professional, political ambitions cloud their better judgment and hinder the boldness with which they claimed they were going to serve. If you having conversations in private meetings, that doesn't tell us anything. I don't want to hear what you talked about behind closed doors. I need you to stand up to the people and say, this, and this is wrong. Those are the kind of people I want in elected office. I ain't got time for the consensus builders. I ain't got time for the naysayers. I don't have time for the people to say, well, we just gone so far. Just like you started.
Oh, you don't like team players.
Right. Just like you started down this path, we can take a detour and correct it. But we should not have to beg people to do what they claimed they were going to do in office. And so I'm trying to understand why people are not understanding that the council is hijacking the school board. And as I keep saying, this has been in place since 2006. There are a couple of things happening, but they're different lanes. But the most dangerous lane is the culture of leadership that we are in. And this is the avalanche that we are having. We have the rebel progressives in the council. We now have an ally, a progressive. I won't call Aisha a rebel, but she is a progressive in the county executive's office. They have a block at the school system. Thank God we didn't have an appointee to the state attorney's office.
Oh,
and now I don't know what the Democratic Central Committee looks like, but they probably stacking the decks there too, because nobody really pays attention to them. So I just say all that to say that it's just bad optics, and you can say what you want to say, but the dots are connecting very well, and we are not stupid. And let me just also say, for the record, I texted this day to y'all, and I said, if you white and you criticize a Black person, you're racist. If you are a man and you criticize a woman, you're sexist or misogynist. And if you're an older, mature, experienced person and you criticize a younger person, you are jealous, bitter, angry, hating, and all of that. No, we want people to do what is right. That is it. If you're a woman in a position and you're tacky, we're going to say that you didn't do the job good. If you Black and you didn't do it, we're going to say, if you white, we're going to say you didn't do it. And if you are young and inexperienced and trying to shuffle the shells on us, we're going to call you out for that too. And there are people, like I said, you know, you got too many people now who are under the thumb of the culture, and they won't stand out. And the last thing I'm going to say is the downtown dude at 176, what is the address? 1600
Pennsylvania Avenue.
He ain't got nothing on the people over there off of McCormick Drive. Y'all are being bamboozled, hoodwinked, nose thumbed, and they are they just doing things right in our faces.
Right.
But y'all want to talk about us and what we shouldn't do. I want to talk about you and what you not doing.
So I'm gonna read something really quick, and since we share stuff, we shared in the group.
I didn't say where I texted it.
No, I'm talking about. You can attack without being malicious. Who degrades the attacker and diminishes the process. It feeds media obsession with flaws, and it rivals debate. Now, public figures are mortal humans. As such, they all have defects. Indeed, if they could be recalled like cars, they will all have to go back to the factory. Every one of them is subject to being picked apart, which is fine. So really, what we're trying to say is that policies, actions, or anything done within your official capacity is not off limits. It is subject to debate, subject to being picked apart to make sure that it is beneficial and advantageous to the community. What we don't do is personal attacks. You're not going to see us on here doing personal attacks, and that's for you all. And because when we have conversations in the public domain, it's always, why you're attacking that person. You're talking about some of the actions they have taken. That is a civic duty. And once we start feeling like, or being made to believe that those are personal attacks, we lose our power as a constituency, because we are supposed to share and debate and talk about and discuss. And that's why when they say, we're taking politics out of so many places, well, where do you talk politics? I mean, we're going to talk it here because that's what, the mission of it is, because essentially these are things that govern our lives. So we have to be able to talk about things. It isn't a negative thing. There was a big debate on one of the Facebook groups about people complaining online instead of taking action. And they use 311 as a reference. Not everything goes to 311. And part of complaining, it's not a complaint. It's airing your grievances against government, and that is the foundation of the United States of America. That's why we threw tea into the harbor. It's why we started wars. It's why we did so much so that we could redress government. That's all I have to
That's
say.
our constitutional right.
And let's not forget that people are being locked up all over the country, blocked from coming in and out of our country because of their freedom of speech, because they've criticized or said something about someone who's sitting in a seat of power. So why is it as Black people, we don't understand that we are even more so under the microscope and the expectation to do better? You said you wanted it, you got it, do right by it. I ain't hating on nobody. Do what you're supposed to do.
Look, one thing that we have done that we can share because it has already been filed. So, we put action behind our comments and our passion and our commitment. So we have, because the process for approving this interim superintendent, the final approval comes from the state superintendent. We have sent a letter petitioning the state superintendent to deny this request for this interim appointment. Our concerns, one of the big concerns is that we're in the budget reconciliation period. We need to have somebody familiar with the budget that was sent to the county executive, because that's the budget that our CFO says will get us where we need to, considering cuts that we have on the state level, on the federal level, dollars that we may have lost because of the students, our enrollment has gone down. And so our CFO has put forth, or the PGCPS CFO has put forth a budget with all those considerations. On the other side, we have board members with about, close to $1 million of, and actually, I think it's less than $1 million because some of the stuff they did drop out. So it may be around about $700,000, but that's still a lot of money. That's on top of what we have to pay House to buy him out, which was not in the budget. But we're in that reconciliation process. We do not need somebody who has not been part of a K through 12 school district since 2019. And the appointment is through July 1, unless the intention is that they plan to make him permanent. But anyway, we've asked the state superintendent to deny this approval based on the fact of past record of just questionable conduct. We don't need any more of that. The fact that he's currently operating his company and not in good standing with the state of Maryland. If you plan not to do any business, then dissolve the business. Don't sit up here and still be sitting in there, not in good standing. The fact that he allowed himself to come into this mess and didn't try to make a correction before that announcement. 3 attorneys sitting up on that doing at this press conference, and nobody says anything about respecting the rule of law in this process. So it was done illegally. Based on that, we're asking that this be denied, and that what makes sense is to allow someone from the senior staff of Mr. House to assume the interim position, similar to like how they did with Howard Burnett when he acted as interim until a permanent person is hired. That makes more sense. It doesn't add to our costs because that person is already being paid. They're just sitting in the interim position, and we can ensure the integrity of our budget reconciliation process. So that is what makes sense, not this.
Well, we are definitely going to keep monitoring this. CAG is always on the forefront. We're going to definitely update you all on anything that happens, with whichever actions they take. You will be the first to know. It's been a great
can I say one
episode.
other thing?
Sure.
I just want to, because I did promise to mention this. We have 2 former board members who joined on with us with this. That's how passionate folks are about this.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of people in the community are definitely upset about how this went down and curious about how it all took place in 24 hours. If you have watched us this far, thank you so much. And if you joined us halfway through, make sure that you start back from the beginning because there's a lot of things that you did miss. There was a great interview with someone from Prince George's County Coalition of Police Accountability talking about the cannabis reinvestment. And we also updated you on the transit situation here in Prince George's County for the county's new plan for the Purple Line. Again, thank you all so much for joining us here on Facebook and also on YouTube. We look forward to have a healthy
And
discussion with
Instagram,
you.
right?
No, not yet, love. We're not on it live on Instagram. We haven't done that, but eventually we'll be on there. But again, good night and take care.
Good night.